Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We'll all be able to say that we survived Hurricane, what are we calling this thing? The one after Hurricane Ina. So welcome and good morning. So glad you guys could come. Just a lot of fun being at the RoofCon conference. We thought we would take advantage of the fact that we had, three guys who put on lots of training in the industry, and we had lots of folks here. So let's take advantage of that. Let's come together, do some training. Super small atmosphere. And it's even smaller than we thought it was going to be because a lot of people ran for the airport to get to catch planes and ran to other airports. we had friends that are on their way to like Sarasota and different places to catch flights. So thanks for joining us. This training is going to be in a couple different sections. So the very first section is about to start here. And we're going to have Jake Hess, then we're going to have Joe Mousakheel. And then the three of us are going to sort of take questions and kind of jam together. There's a lot going on in the industry, so we're going to take advantage of the fact that we can really kind of go in a open format. So we'll do that. That'll be sort of towards the 10 o'clock hour, and then after that, I'll be getting into the MOD training. So and we'll be doing that between 10 and noon and stuff. We're going to have some. The MOD mob will be joining us at 10 o'clock for their normal weekly. I do a weekly training every single week, and they're going to be joining us via Zoom. So they'll just be here in the room. There'll be another 30, 40 people here in the room remotely. So that'll be fun. So without further ado, we have an icon in our industry, someone who literally leads the industry, has been for years. He is, what would be your title at SolarCon? He's CEO, chief evangelist. He's the head of the whole deal, let's call it with that. So he and Joe started SolarCon, and they're here at RoofCon doing an inter-RoofCon, SolarCon thing. They had an amazing booth here with some multimedia stuff going on. But the three of us wanted to collaborate. This is one of our real first opportunities to seriously collaborate. And so we're doing that together. And Jake's been in the business for many years. He's been selling for many years. He really covers lots of facets of the solar world, which is why he's probably the best person to head up this effort to bring everybody together in the SolarCon. So he's here by special arrangement to this morning to share with us. I'm going to bring to the stage Mr. Jake Hess. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you. It's always crazy putting things on like this because you don't know how many people are going to show up. You rent the room, and then sometimes like one person comes. I'm like, hi, we could have just done this privately somewhere. But I love formats like this because then it gets to be a lot more interactive. It's kind of tough if we were to like double this size to be interactive, but because it's a small group, it's cool to be interactive. Just ask questions if you want to, raise your hands, or boo if you don't like something. Don't do that, I'll cry on camera. But I just wanted to talk to you guys about something that I don't always get to go over because a lot of people ask me how to start up their businesses, right? I want to talk about the sales. Just so you guys know, I actually sold Ken. He came over and right when I first started solar in 2013, he was in the office I was in San Diego in Vivint. It's cool to see him again. But when I was selling solar, I was installing about 200 or 210 installs a year. In San Diego, we averaged about 5 kilowatts at that time. It's grown since then, or the average has grown since then. But I loved selling. I loved knocking doors, self-genning. It's always been fun. And I get a lot of people asking me like, how do I go into a house and just sit with them, and it doesn't even sound like I'm selling, and they just end up going with me. And so I'm going to tell you some of the secrets that I do when I go inside of the home. When I tell them to you, you're going to be like, that's it? That's all? But that's the whole purpose of solar. It's supposed to be very simple. When I was selling home security, I used to, for anyone that's done it, they used to teach us, like, homeowners would open the door smidge like this, and they'd kind of look out and be like, hey, I'll just show you where, and then you'd, like, stick your butt in. I'll just show you where the contact goes. And you're, like, walking back, and then they're like, whoa. And then you put the contact on the door frame, and then you turn around and shut the door, and you're like, hi, how's it going? Let's keep talking. It's just very invasive, right? Very invasive. And solar doesn't have to be that way. You don't need pressure tactics. You like that one? You don't need pressure tactics. Solar sells itself. It's like It is literally the easiest thing on the world to sell, and I think that all these managers coming from pest control or home security or all these other things, we bring these, and me too, I did it. We bring these bad habits in, and we can't shake them for a little bit, and we realize it doesn't work in this industry, right? What really works in this industry is talking to someone and making them feel comfortable. That's what works, right? All the pressure tactics and the smooth one-liners and the things like, hey, I like that line, I'm gonna throw that in there on the next one. Homeowners, remember, you guys always hear the phrase, like, it's not about what was said, it's about how you felt when you're around the person. Or how does that go? Do you guys know what the quote I'm talking about? It's not even a quote, it's just a saying that people say.
Remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, exactly, right? What's that? Thank you, Matt. It's just the feeling you get, right? You could spend an entire day with someone. You could like wine and dine them, take them to dinner. They're not going to remember any of that stuff. And a lot of times they're not going to remember what you say. They're just going to remember how you made them feel. And so when I go inside of the home, I like homeowners to know that they can be very, very comfortable with me. One of the ways I do this is I empathize with them. And I think empathy is one of the lost tools in sales. I think it's the most underutilized tool that you can possibly have. And you'll find in sales, the very top 1% of salespeople, empathy is the thing that they use the most. And the reason for that is because they've gone through it, right? They've been through some of that pain. And they have kids, and they have parents that are getting older, and they can understand the ramifications of a decision like this one, right? And because of that, they get to inform the homeowner what they would do and how they would feel. And the homeowner, a lot of times, what you want is for them to consider things that they have never considered before. It's like, hey, if you put this, I love the referral, but if you put this on your parents' house, and they pass away, you have to understand. And I know it's a morbid subject, but you have to understand, I would love to do it. In fact, I'm gonna tattoo my phone number on your arm, all right? You call me anytime you need solar panels, but I would love to do it, don't get me wrong. But if they pass away, you are the one left with that loan, or someone in your family, whoever inherits the house. If it's not you, you need to change your life and be better to your parents, right? But you're taking on that debt, or whoever's taken over the home is taking on that debt. And when I say things like that to people, a lot of salespeople are like, whoa, I would never say that in the house. I would never do that. But what happens is they trust you more. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy's not trying to talk us into solar. He's trying to warn us of all of the fears that we could possibly run into, all the things we didn't think of, so that we feel what? Anyone? Comfortable. So that we feel comfortable with our decision. And that's very different than someone coming inside of the home and like, oh my gosh, you're going to save money. Sign right here. I swear to you, the site survey is going to happen. Don't worry about it. We're going to come back with the final design. You guys will have a final say. Just sign here. You can cancel anytime you want. That is a very different feeling inside of the home. It's very different, right? So we try to avoid those things. How you doing? We try to avoid those things, right? We try to avoid making homeowners feel uncomfortable. So one of the very first things I do when I get inside of the home, I walk in there, and just so you guys know, I only carry a blue pen with me. It's the Pilot G2 pen. For those of you who want to know, my magical Harry Potter one, that's it. I take that, and I take a white-lined notepad inside of the house and a printed contract. Those are the only three things I take inside of the home. The contract is hidden behind the notepad, and I go inside of the house and do my formalities, hello, that kind of stuff, and we end up sitting down at the table. And I slide those things aside, and I'm just going to show you right here. I don't sit up to the table. Like this. Hey, how you got? I lean back, and I purposely scoot my chair out, and I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? Like I sit like that because I want them to know that I'm very comfortable inside of the home, right? I want them to know that they can get comfortable with me, and that we're supposed to mirror the homeowners, but you also know that if you're supposed to mirror the homeowners, they can actually mirror you back, right? You guys have seen this? A lot of times if you step closer to a homeowner, they step back because you're doing a mirror effect, right? So if you lean back and get comfortable, they can also lean back and get comfortable. NLP has a lot to do with selling. Anyone studied NLP? It's super powerful. I'm not going to get into all of it, but if you can pick up books on that, I highly recommend it. Neuro-linguistic programming. But I do want to talk about the very first step I take when I get to the table. I lean back, I sit down, They say, hey, just so you guys know, I understand. You guys probably get advertisements on television, you get stuff in the mail, you have people stopping you when you walk into Home Depot, you get people knocking on your door, the radio, people calling you on the phone, text messages. There is not a place where you guys can't get solar. There's just not. But there's a reason you haven't gone solar yet, right? And for a lot of, I never say a lot of people that I've sold or a lot of homeowners I've helped, I don't say that, I say referrals because I want to start getting that in their head. I have a referral training. I got referral-based business. Ben Mack taught me. I was averaging about 10 a month in referrals. I literally stopped knocking doors and just started delegating those referrals out to reps. But I sit back and I say, you could get solar anywhere. You get it from anyone. But every one of my referrals has told me, they have these fears. They're like, there's a reason they didn't get it. For example, what happens if my roof leaks? So you guys, what am I doing when I start to list these things off for them? What salesperson, some salespeople, some new salespeople are gonna be like, whoa, we don't wanna instill doubt in these people's minds, right? Go ahead, Matt.
You're giving them the chance to tell you how to sell them.
Correct. I start listing the things off. I say, what happens if my roof leaks? Because we're gonna get up there and I start like getting really animated. We're gonna get up there and we're gonna take a drill and I use sound effects, and we're gonna drill a hole through your roof. And if the rain comes down and gets in and you guys leave and you come home and there's a lake inside of your kitchen, you're gonna be like, solar was a bad decision, right? And I paint this imagery for them. I create the pain and I create the comfort for them to then do what? Tell me all of their...
They tell you the reasons why they wouldn't buy solar.
Correct. What industry have you ever gone in that you get to sit down at a table and within the first 2 minutes, they start giving you every single objection they have, right? I love that. I love going in there and sitting down, but they're not gonna do it if you ask them. You have to start painting the picture for them. Use the sound effects, it's kind of fun. And then other referrals ask me, what happens if the sun goes down? Is it still gonna produce power? What happens if there's a blackout? What happens if we wanna get out of the contract? What do you think I do when I mention the word contract? I gave you an example. I create imagery, right? I create something painful for them. Because when I create pain in the very beginning, there is one thing that I know about these homeowners. Where am I? Where am I sitting? I'm sitting in their home at their kitchen table. What do I know right now? I know that they want solar. I am not a good enough salesman. No one in here is a good enough salesman, maybe Michael O'Donnell. No one is a good enough salesman that can go sell someone something they don't want. I could take this, it means something to us because we love MOD, but I could take this into the conference right over there and ask them to spend $10 on it, and would they? Probably not, right? Because it doesn't mean anything to them. It means something to us. So when I go inside of the home, I know that they want solar. I'm not selling this to them. They already want it. It's just my job to make them feel comfortable with their decision. It's already there. They've already made the decision. You're in the house. And I don't want anyone to forget that. So when I sit inside of there, hey, Michael, will you give me time? Will you tell me when I'm...
You've got a good 15, 20 minutes, so take your time.
Oh.
This is too valuable to run.
You get that recorded, please? No. So I want them to feel comfortable. So when I start listing all of these things out, I kind of lost track, so I'm going to start from here. They start listing all of these things out, and they put them on there. I don't jump on it. First-year reps, people that are inexperienced will jump on those. So if a homeowner says, hey, what happens if my roof leaks? Oh, we got you. Don't worry. It's a 10-year warranty. Don't do that. Play it cool, okay? Be the cool kid this time. Like, oh, yeah, one of my referrals had that same thing. Actually, I start to congratulate them. Actually, that was really good. That's a really good question. I haven't had people ask that 100,000 times. I haven't had anyone ask that. That's great. And I write it down and I make their input feel valuable. And I encourage them to do more. Is there anything else? You know what? Yeah. We were wondering. Oh, I remember. We were wondering, how long is the contract? I'm like, I don't say those stupid one-liners. Well, how long are you in a contract with your utility company? I remember I used to do that. But I say, yeah, the contract is usually about 25 years. Sometimes a lot of homeowners want to do it longer because they don't want the rates to go up on them, but unfortunately we can only do it for 25 years. Right now, you guys have probably noticed in the last couple years, the rates have gone up like crazy. So homeowners, once they learn about solar, after I chat with you guys about this, they're like, wait, Can we do longer than 25 years? And the answer is no. Okay? But it is a contract, though. So I want you guys to slow this down a little bit. You only have to make this decision once over the next 25 years. Let's slow this down, make sure we get it right. And I want you guys to ask all the questions, bring all your fears out. The contract, just so you know, when you're signing it for 25 years, we're going to be married. You can't get out of it. I'm going to be a bitch if you try to divorce me, right? Attorneys are going to get involved. You're keeping this solar no matter what for 25 years. So just enjoy the process right now. Let's slow it down, right? If we're going to get married, let's make sure that we're going to be a good fit. And they start laughing. But I like painting that pain and that imagery, and I want them to feel it in the very beginning because I know that they want solar. And so what are they waiting for? I actually have them on a hook. It's like dangling a carrot. What am I waiting for? What are they waiting for? They're waiting to hear about all the good stuff. Like, cool, we already know there's a lot of things that we feared. We already know that. That's why we don't have it. But we want to hear the good stuff. So when I paint this imagery and allow them to feel this pain, I am invoking a lot of trust from them, right? I'm starting to capture this. But don't jump on it like a first-year rep. Hey, here's the answer. This is what we do. Write it all down and slide it off to the side on that notepad and say, hey, wow, those were phenomenal questions. I'm going to go through everything that I need to go through with you guys, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to cover every single one of those during this process. But if I don't, that's why I wrote it down, so that by the end of it, if I miss something, I'll make sure I address it. Is that cool? I said, oh, yeah, that is great. Thank you. I'm like, yeah. So here we go. And I start to dive in. And then we are now in a place of neutrality, right? They understand that because I painted this imagery and this pain, that they can now open up to me because I'm going to shoot them straight, right? I'm not just there to tell them all the good stuff. I'm there to allow them to make a decision because they already have the fear. I'm there to allow them to make a decision that they're educated in. And you can only feel comfortable in something when you're educated in it. If you don't understand it, you will never feel comfortable, okay? We always hope to, but there's always this underlying tone that if we don't understand it, there's always this underlying, I don't feel comfortable. And sometimes when we're surrounded by peers, so if their friends did it and it was a referral, sometimes when we're in a group of people or friends referred them, sometimes we feel like, hey, I know I'm supposed to like this. I still feel a little bit uneasy, but I can't say it because all my friends did it and they referred me and I feel silly. So I'm going to make up some excuse like, hey, we're not certain, we might be moving soon, because I can't tell them no, because then they're going to go and tell my friends that I decided not to do it, right? So I have to give some fake answer, some fake excuse. And so if we don't allow them to draw that out and we don't allow them to understand, you're going to start to get these fake responses, programmed responses. I like to talk about programmed responses a little bit because we all have them. We all have them. All of us here today, all of us as salespeople still have them. When you're walking through the mall and you walk into a store like, I don't know, I haven't been in one of these for a long time, but you walk into the Gap, what's the first thing that happens? Or actually, I went to the Buckle with my brother out here in Florida. We walked into the Buckle. Very first thing, someone's standing at the floor. What do you think they said? I walk in the door. Hey, can I help you? My response?
No.
No, thanks, I'm just looking, right? And their response?
Okay, let me know if you need anything.
Let me know if you need anything, right? Did you used to work at Buckle, Joe? Let me know if you need anything. And then the very next thing I do, this is the very next sentence out of my mouth. I shit you not, this is what happens. Hey, no thanks, I'm just looking. Okay, cool, let me know if you need anything. Hey, can you tell me where the pants are? It's like, why did we go through that process, right? Why did we do that? From the time we're little kids, you wake up in the morning, you're a little kid. I liked Fruity Pebbles, Golden Grams were my favorite. My brother loved Cookie Crisp, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. You know what I'm talking about? You're my brother's man, all right. Who likes Golden Grams?
Cookie Crisp.
Something's wrong with all of you. Cookie Crisp all the way? Cookie Crisp. So my little brother, we would wake up in the morning and we would make our bowl of cereal and we'd go upstairs and we're watching the cartoons, ring at the doorbell. Okay, we run to the door as fast as we can. We fight till Hookah opens it, if you guys have siblings. Open the door, and it's some man, right? So we run down to the parents' room and say, Mom, Dad, there's someone at the door. Well, who is it? I don't know, some guy, right? What if it was my neighbor? What would I say?
It's Joe.
Yeah, it's Joe from next door. Or it's Mr. Fulmer was my neighbor. It was the Kleitz. I would say that because I know who they are. When my parents ask me who's at the door, I say the name of the person. If it's my uncle, I'm gonna say it's Uncle. It's Uncle Jake, it's Uncle Joe, right? I'm going to say who it is. But when I go as a little kid and I run into the room and I say, I don't know, some guy, what do my parents tell me to say? What's that?
Tell them we're not here.
Tell them we're not here. Tell them we're still in bed. Tell them we're in the shower. We are programmed from the time we are little kids to start to push people off of the doors or people we don't know away from us, because only a salesman is going to come to the door and a little kid doesn't know who they are. Only a salesman in the morning, right? So we are programmed from the time we're kids to start getting these responses to push people away. We're programmed to do that. Now, I love the programmed responses, and I start to give them to homeowners. Yeah, a lot of referrals I talk to, they wonder, what if this happens? What if this happens? How do I get out of the contract? I give it to them. I 8 Mile that thing, right? Just give them all the objections in the beginning, and I pull all of them out of them. I write them down, and when I dive into the utility bill, what's that?
I wrote 8 Mile earlier on the top of my page.
We think the same. So when I get on there and I look at their utility bill, they might understand the concept of utility bill. They might, but we're looking at it every single day. So I show them the graphs, and what I do is I actually teach them how I read the graph. Sounds kind of weird. So I sit down. Now I start to get closer to them. For those of you who know sales, and we're kind of touching elbows and we're examining this like it's the most interesting document man has ever found. And I show them how I read the graphs. And then I say, this one looks like it's about 790 kilowatt hours. What do you think? And they're like, yeah. Okay. And I turn the paper to them. I say, okay, I'm going to write these down. Could you just tell me what the next month is? 798? I say, okay. And then they start getting into it. And I love when it's a husband and wife and they start getting into it and they disagree with each other. And I'm like, oh, actually that's okay. Because here's how it works. Where I live in San Diego, some years it reaches over 100 degrees like 35 times a year, 1 year. It reached over 100 degrees that summer, 35 times that year. The year before that, it only reached over 100 degrees 3 times, right? Everyone's going to use their air conditioning different. Clouds are going to come differently. We're going to have different weather. So even though this is kind of like an estimation, that's okay. Here's what salespeople do not want to tell you. And I'm saying this to the homeowner. What did I just do?
8 Mile.
I 8 Miled them, but I also separated myself from competition, but from being a sales rep, right? Oh, here's the funny thing. Here's what all the salespeople are going to tell you, right? Or here's what all the salespeople aren't going to tell you. Solar is like having a crystal ball. We're trying to predict the future because we have no idea what the weather is going to be like. I mean, even today, the weatherman doesn't know, right? We have no idea what the weather is going to be like next year, 2 years from now, 20 years from now. We have no idea. And so what salespeople do is they come in the house and they say, hey, you need this much power, and we're going to offset you 100%. But you know what the truth is? We're going to the darkest crevices of Earth, and we're trying to hit a target with a gun. We're shooting in the dark, and we're telling you, hey, this is what you need, but we don't know how much it's going to produce because the weather changes so much. We don't know how much you're going to use, right?
Or if we're getting an electric car someday in the future.
Correct. Yeah, lifestyle has changed. 15 years ago, not everyone had TVs in every room. Now there's a flat screen TV in every single room, right? Everyone has iPads and laptops. We use power very differently, and we're becoming more and more reliant on electronics. So as time goes on, and what we're asking you to do today is sign a contract for 25 years saying this is how much power I need. Sounds ridiculous, right? Remember that tattoo I told you about? Call me if you need more, right? Sounds ridiculous, but I want you guys to understand whatever we come up with today, this number, even though you guys are disagreeing, that's okay. Because some years you're going to make more than you need, and some years you're going to make less. You're either going to owe the utility company or they're going to owe you. Now, if you land right on that spot where you owe them nothing, zero, you used as much in the house as your system produced, go buy a lottery ticket because you just hit some insane odds, right? And so what I want you guys to do is understand that whatever number we come up with in here, this is a guess. And it's always better to err on the side of caution and do a little bit less, because once those panels are up there, we're married, right? You can't take them down. I mean, you can, but why would you? You paid for them. So let's err on the side of caution a little bit. We can always add to the system. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Sure enough, by the time I'm ending my presentation, they always want to add more, right? But it's their decision now. They understand the ramifications. They understand that we start to become more reliant on electrical. And they do want to get electric vehicles maybe, right? And so they start to up their system with their own education. They know that it's getting more expensive. They know this. Time, Michael?
You're good.
Inside of the home, I'm going through this. I slide the bill over to them, and I start writing down the kilowatt hours that they're telling me. Now, they understand it in a different way than if someone just goes like this. They go, hey there, nice to see you. This is your proposal. That's how much power you need right there. We got you covered. And it's like, they are now having a very unique experience with me than they are with anyone else. With me, they understand what the proposal is. They understand what they're getting. They understand the decision they're making, right? And so I slide this over to them, and I say, okay, one last favor. Sorry, I'm going to slide this over to you. I'm just going to type in my calculator because sometimes I mess it up. Can you read those to me very slowly? And I start adding the numbers that they're reading to me. And then I grab the paper and I write the total at the bottom, right? Now they understand what that means. A lot of you guys think that the homeowner, just because you point to it and you say, hey, this right here is basically how much power you need in a year. That doesn't make sense to them. Okay, that makes sense to us. So, but when they can break it down and interact with you, now all of a sudden they're understanding what those numbers mean, and they hold a lot more merit with you than someone else that even brings that identical number to them, right? And so now that we're done with that process and they understand the amount of power they need, I have actually done enough proposals. How many of you guys in here have more than 50 proposals under your belt that you've created? No? That's okay. How many proposals about do you guys think you've generated?
Probably about 10.
10? So what you're gonna do, you guys and those that have more, what you're gonna do is you're gonna start to notice patterns, okay? All these proposals you generate, you're gonna see on a south-facing roof, if you have 10,000 kilowatt hours, now this number is not true, I just wanna illustrate this for you. If you have 10,000 kilowatt hours in a year on a south-facing roof, right, and you have 20 panels, then that means on average, a south-facing roof panel that you're selling produces 500 kilowatt hours a year, okay? Everyone understand that math? 500 times 20 is 10,000. And so now I know every single time I'm designing a system on a south-facing roof with no shade down here in Florida, that this panel is going to produce about 500 kilowatt hours. I no longer need a proposal because I can look at the total number that I just wrote on that paper and divide it by 500 and say, you're going to need about this many panels, okay? Now, I'm looking at, and then I pull up Google Maps and I say, look, this roof plane right here is facing south. The panels are going to go here first because it's the most efficient, and then we're probably going to put it over on this side. Is that okay? And right then and there, without a proposal, I get their yes or no. Actually, no, we don't want it there. We don't want it in front of the home. My question is, why in God's green earth are you guys going, not you guys, I mean other people outside, yes. Why are solar people going to a home with a proposal and saying, yeah, here you go, here's your system, and here's the amount of power you need, without talking to the homeowner?
And they're all on the frame of us.
Yeah, like why are you doing that? Talk to them. You know, what if during COVID, their whole family moved in and then they moved out and the power is gonna look different? Or what if they did get an electric vehicle? Or what if they want to add a hot tub? Or what if they took one away, or a swimming pool? I mean, the list goes on. Why are we generating proposals without talking with the homeowner, right? I can give them a deadly accurate number and proposal right there without even bringing one. And it's less invasive. Remember me sticking my butt to get in the door? It's less invasive, right? They feel like they're customizing their own system to the house. No one's there telling them what to do. They're there making their own decision and feeling comfortable with every step of the process, right? And for me, this can go on and on and on, and I get them more comfortable, and then I say, hey, part of this, let me tell you, the amount of panels you need, you are right on the line. Oh my goodness. If you do this many, when I do the math, sometimes it equals like 20.68 panels. I'm like, we don't make 0.68, so we can either do 20 or we can do 21. Understand now that you need 0.68 to land about right on that number. So you're either going to make a little bit less than that number, or you're going to make a little bit more. Now they're understanding, oh, I can't just pick the number I want and then get that number. It's whatever the panels produce, right? And so I tell them, you have to pick. Now, if you pick 21, here's the problem. We need to upgrade your electrical panel outside, okay? It's going to have to be upgraded because of the inverters that we're using. It just needs a little bit more power, and yours is a little bit smaller for it. But don't worry, we're going to fix it inside of here. It's just an additional, whatever it is for you guys, $3,000, $3,500, whatever it is. It's just an additional this. That's option number one. Option number two is we shorten it a little bit and do 20 panels. and you don't need an electrical upgrade because you're right on that line. Which do you prefer? Now, if you go this route and you're going to do 21 and you are concerned about a little bit more power down the road, maybe if you're getting an electrical upgrade anyway, maybe I'd add a few more panels because now you've passed that threshold, right? Make it worth it for getting that electrical upgrade and mitigate your risk a little bit further on down the road. Completely up to you guys. I do not care which option you choose. I make $1 million either way, and they start laughing. But I want you guys to feel comfortable with your choice, right? I want you to feel comfortable with this. You guys, I'm going to end there, and I just want you guys to know this. Whatever you do in the home is going to set the tone for the entirety of that process until they PTO. Whatever happens with your installer, whatever happens with the roofers, whatever happens with the site surveyor, they know that they can call me at this point, and I'm going to shoot them straight. I'm going to say things like, the site surveyor came to your house and told you should put the panels on your bus instead of the roof? No. They say some crazy things sometimes. Don't listen to them. You know, like, they can call me and ask me anything that they want to ask me. I've literally had homeowners call me and say, hey, Jake, so we did meet with another company. We got this proposal. Can you please look at it? Because they know I'm going to shoot them straight. And I'm not joking. Sometimes I said, oh my gosh, they made a mistake. If I were you, I would get this and I would sign that contract and I would get it for that price and then go with it and see if they're going to do it, right? Now, if they start to mess up or if they come back and try to change the agreement on me, call me. But if you can get that for that price, absolutely go with that, right? They've made a mistake. And sure enough, what happens is they get a call from that company and say, hey, looks like your system's going to be a little bit more. We do need an electrical upgrade now. We didn't know that. We didn't build it in. It's like you were right. You were right the whole time. And we have had literally people cancel their contracts and sign with us because we look like they're professionals. Okay? And I'm allowing them to feel comfortable with their decision, whether it's me or not, because every company that you meet with, every company that the homeowner meet with, every single one that the homeowners meet with is the best company ever. You sit down with them. Where do you work at?
True Home.
Freedom.
True Home and Freedom. He's going to sit down with True Home and be like, ma'am, sir, here are the best panels on the entire market. We're going to give you the best customer service. If anything goes wrong, you just call me. I got you, right? And then he's going to sit down and he's going to do the same. These are the best panels you can get in the industry. And so I tell the homeowner, every person you meet with has the best panels in the industry and is going to give you the best service, and so are we. Right? What is the difference here, right? I have to separate myself from every single other person, and there's ways to do that. There's hundreds of ways to do that in a pitch and in a presentation, and I'd love to dive in with you guys on that a little bit further some other time. But for now, I hope you guys gain some little insight to that, or a little insight into what happens inside of my homes, and hopefully that helped you guys a little bit. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Thank you so much.
course.
I've always had mad respect for you, but none more than when I just heard you were selling over 200 installs a year when you were the guy out in the street. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's beast mode. So, by the way, say hello to the MOD mob.
Hey guys, how you
MOD
doing?
mob. Say hello. We got a bunch of folks here. Stay here with me, Jake.
Oh, yeah.
We got a bunch of folks here in Florida. These folks join me every single week. So this is a special treat to have you in a moment. We're going to bring up Joe Mousakheel of Solar Objections, also a founder of SolarCon. Great to have everybody here. But we're really talking about closing and two types of closings. One, closing at the door for the appointment. You and I both knocked on doors. You've been knocking on doors way longer than I have for solar. And then secondly, closing for the sale. So you just did a great thing about making friends with the customer, having them trust you and your expertise. Give us another, give us two things. One, give us a discussion about how you're at the door when you get someone, they're nodding their head. How do you go from getting their attention, talking at the door, to having to say yes to an appointment? And then what are you doing at the kitchen table? Same thing, they're nodding their head. What's your style about moving that conversation into the close?
That's a very good question. So when I'm on the door, I do read the room, right? A lot of people don't do that. Like if I have a lady holding a kid and pots are banging in the back and her hair is sideways and she's like, and smiling, like, yeah, okay, yeah. And she's just being super sweet, I'm like, you have got a lot going on. Like, this is beautiful. I love this. Like, this reminds me of my childhood. You are a badass mother. I'm going to head out of here and catch you guys another time when it's a little bit less, like when you have less on your hands, right? And I leave. You guys have to read the room, and a lot of sales managers teach you, like, nah, you push through that, you grind, get in that door, and it's like, whoa, this is not like a sign it and they get it immediately type of sale. This is they sign it, and then they're going to be able to sleep on it for the next couple months or weeks or whatever it is that your utility is for the permit times. And they can cancel. Like, pushing to get a signed contract means literally nothing in this industry, right? Any money that you get is a loan, and you're living in debt, right? And then you have to go knock more doors to get out of debt. So empathizing with the homeowner and their circumstances and situation. Now, sure, I push a little bit because no one's just going to be like, did you say solar? Come on in, please. Right? They're not going to do that. You kind of have to create your own reality here, right? So when I'm reading the homeowner and they're allowing me to move forward, I don't do it like all at once. Boom. Hey, if you really liked what I said here today, let's go ahead and sit down at the table. That's a hard no, right? That's a get the hell out of here. But what I do is I take them through baby steps. I genuinely believe that on the doors, there is 8 sales that you have to do. And you cannot move on to another sale. Everyone thinks it's one sale. I have to convince them that solar is kind of the best thing to do, kind of the best decision. They think it's one sale, it's not. That's the last and final sale before you go into the door. And once you're in the door and you're sitting at the table, you have another 8 sales that you have to do. It doesn't make any sense for you guys to go to a gas station and pull out the nozzle, put your card in, and then before you pump any gas, drive away. Like that, you didn't get anything out of that, right? So when I go into a home, or when I'm knocking on a door, I do the process. You have to open the door. You have to get out. You have to put your card in. There's certain things you have to do. And so you need to break down when you're on the door, you need to break down segments within that sale, and there's a specific order. And if they don't buy into one of those segments, you may not, and you cannot move on to that next segment. You just can't. You have to spend time in that one. And sometimes you have to go back to the previous segment in order to go back to this one so that you can go forward again, okay? Do not move unless you have sold that. And you're gonna see that, but like, you're going to see a light bulb. You're going to see epiphany. They're going to go like, it looks like something like this. Oh, okay, yeah. And then you're like, okay, now I can move to the next segment, right? If you don't get buy-in and you don't get some sort of like some visible, and I do mean literally visible, understanding that homeowner has grasped that concept, you cannot move forward. What you should do is if you're cycling through like this and you're running on ice and you can't get to that next segment, what you should do is you should say, I am so sorry, I actually have a referral. My phone just rang in my pocket. I have a referral that I have to get to. I'm gonna catch you guys another time. Don't worry, I'll answer more questions then. I just wanted to introduce myself and I leave. I do not burn that door. I don't get a no, I don't burn it. I always leave it for me to come back because I just can't move forward on that one. But maybe a different day, they're gonna be in a different mood, have a different attitude, something great happened in their life and they're gonna be more receptive, right? Maybe they're thinking about work, they just got fired. You know, you have no idea what's happening in that house. You have no clue what's happening in their minds. So what you need to do is generate segments and do not move past those segments, right? One of my segments on the door, my very first one, you guys have all heard the term break preoccupation. This is not a popular opinion, but I absolutely genuinely hate when people come up to the door and they're like, hi, how's it going? I love your car. That is like, oh my gosh, look at these lines, right? Like, are you kidding me? We're not there for a car. And if I'm opening my door, because if I'm getting off work and I'm like, oh, I finally get to watch America's Got Talent. No one make fun of me for that. I love that show. And I sit down and I turn it on and I just go to take my first bite. Ding dong. I'm like, oh no, someone fucked up, right? And I go to the door. I'm like, hi, how's it going? And they just like they start talking about my car. I'm like, dog, no. Another time, just no. People, you've got to respect people. My opinion is if you were there for solar, talk about solar. If you're afraid to talk about it and bring it up, it just means that you don't believe in it enough to talk about it, or you haven't refined your skills enough to talk about solar. Break preoccupation with solar because that's why you're there. The moment you start talking about cars and, oh, your dog, oh my gosh, how long have you had him for? The moment you start doing those kinds of things, that's when you start losing, right? You're there for solar. And if you start getting rejected, that's a really good barometer and indicator that you need to change something, right? Just because you're spending more time on the door because you're talking about their car or dog gets you nowhere. You make no money doing that, and you do not help your homeowners with that, right? You're there to help your homeowners go solar. Help them understand solar. Help them go solar. Refine your pitch enough, right? So what I like to do is I like them to help them understand the concept of this. The state that you're in has found that electricity needs to be generated in another way. In fact, so much in fact that they have allowed competitors to generate power and store it on your grid. What's the name of the utility?
Where? Here?
You're in Tampa? TECO? TECO. So much in fact that the government has allowed a competitor to store power on TECO's grid, and there's nothing TECO can do about it. It's kind of crazy because they need competitors. They're a monopoly, right? They need competitors, and everyone knows this. But what we can't do is we can't go right out here to this utility pole sticking out of the ground and set another utility pole right next to it and run that to your house, because then you're going to have 50 utility poles. So what they do instead of tearing up the streets and putting more cable under it and creating a whole nother grid is they happen to put solar on your house. That's it. They just put solar panels, and that's your new utility company. But it does go into the TECO's grid until you want to use it, right? And so the nice part about you going solar now is that we get to use TECO's grid. And the reason most of the people in the neighborhood, I have some of the people I talked to right around the corner, some of the referrals that I've gotten, the reason that they're doing it, like this is one of my favorite lines, if you wanted solar, you would have bought it by now, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, the reason everyone around you is still getting it, because they all said the same thing. If we wanted solar, we would have bought it. You get hit all the time, right? The reason you haven't gone solar is financially it didn't make sense, right? So you haven't done it yet, but the reason everyone else is getting it now is because there's a different program out, right? And so you guys know, when I first started with him, the programs have changed so frequently, so much that back then when I met with him and they met with someone 3 times and got 3 different proposals, and then the program changed again and met with someone 3 times, and it changed again and met with someone 3 times. They have met with now 9 different people. And so when you come back a few years later and say things are different, they don't believe you because they've already gone through the process 9 times. So you have to explain it differently. All we're doing is we're just competing with TECO, and we're just selling you power for cheaper than TECO is. Or we're selling power for the same rate that TECO is, but at least you don't have to worry about the rate increases, right? Or we're selling power a little bit more than TECO is, but it will never change on you. How much has TECO gone up? And so the first concept I allow them to grasp is that we're there just to switch them from TECO to a different utility, but they have to understand why we're doing it, right? If they don't buy that, if they don't bite, there's no reason for me to move to the next segment. There's just not, right? Because everything else past that is them being okay with this, okay? And the same thing happens in the home. I hope I answered.
And one of your yes, that was awesome. And so obviously closing for that appointment on the door. Now you're at the kitchen table, you've brought them all through your segments, and they're nodding their head, it's feeling good. How do you transition to ask them to buy?
Inside of the home?
Yeah, at the kitchen table.
This is a little bit cheating. This comes with some experience. But one of my favorite things to do, I kind of left this out. Remember, I had 3 things that I took into the home and I slid it off to the side. Do you remember what they were?
Your contract.
And my pen. What kind of pen was it, Chris?
Blue pen.
That's what's up. That's what's up, baby. All right. So that contract is under there that I printed out. And I've actually gone through and I've highlighted it. So when I start talking about the process, it's a shot in the dark. You have no idea. Here, check this contract out right here. See right here, anything that you produce, and I show them, and then I slide it back over there because I need it back out of the way. I need it out of their minds. And I go back to the contract over and over and over, and I keep sliding it over. I had one homeowner be like, why don't you just keep it by you? I'm like, oh. I pretended like it was an epiphany I had. I was like, oh, I guess I could do that. But she just told me that she's comfortable with me having a contract in front of her, right? But the reason I slide it over is because they're not comfortable yet. But when I keep referring to it over and over and over, there's 2 types of people with contracts, the people that read it and the people that don't, right? If you leave that contract or you go through it enough and you get them comfortable with it, whether they read it or don't read it, you have now made them comfortable with it. But if you don't go through this contract when you're inside of the home, you will always get the excuse, I need to read the contract. No, you're not going to read the contract, right? But they will use that excuse against you. So I refer to it every single step of the way. Every step of the way. I'm like, oh, this is right here. This is on this page. This concern you had is here. Look how it says this. And you guys, I have to tell you this. This is the biggest. I don't know why sales reps don't know this. The contracts that you're giving the homeowners actually protect the homeowners more than they protect the companies. It's absolutely crazy. Don't be afraid of those contracts. They are the best tool that you have. And when you get them comfortable with the contract and all the language inside it, and you keep referring to it, all of a sudden it's not a scary thing. The sales guy's showing it to me every single time he says something. And so by the time they go to sign it, they're like, that's good. I was cool with everything in there, right? And so that's how I do it. And so now, to answer your question, Michael, now that I know that they're comfortable with the contract, that's one of my segments when I'm in the home. Now that I know that they're comfortable with the contract and it's slid over there, I just lean back. I did that thing I do in the very beginning. I just lean back and be like, okay. And you guys, salespeople have one unique ability. The very best salespeople can handle discomfort better than any other person on the planet. Salespeople have to handle uncomfortable situations better than anyone else. They have to. And the very best salespeople will create the discomfort because they can thrive on it, but the homeowners can't, right? So what I do is I'm in the middle of thought, I write it all down, and be like, yeah, that's how that works. Well, okay. Honey, right? And like, yeah, so what happens if the roof leaks again? Oh, remember this, and this. Remember it says right here, this, and this. Are there any other questions? And I just stay silent. And they say, yeah, what about this? Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, that was a really good question. I only brushed on it lightly. Let me explain it a little bit more. And I spend another 5 minutes with them. I go, okay, that was a beautiful question. Is there anything else? And I swear to you, and sales reps have witnessed this 100 times, and no one believes me. I have it recorded. I swear to you, if you do that enough times, and you answer their questions enough times, the very last time you go silent, it's going to sound like this. Well, what are the next steps? Right? I don't like pressure tactics. I like them to feel comfortable. And no sales rep ever should just be complacent and let the homeowner say, what do I do next? Unless you have the ability to create that atmosphere for them to do that. Right? What do we do next? And I say, the very worst thing you can say. Anyone in sales knows the trick I'm about to pull. I say, what we're going to do is we're going to check your credit. It's a hard credit check. Then we're going to sign the contracts. Oh, before we do that, though, and then I leave it, I need to ask you guys, do you remember how net metering works exactly? Yeah. And, they start to explain it. I'm like, okay. So you guys good with the credit check then? Like, yeah, bring it up. Now I've planted the seed, right? I planted the seed of pain and fear. I've changed the subject, got them to answer something they're comfortable with. Then I go back to it. Now it's no longer a problem, right? If you put that pain first and then disengage them from that pain and allow them to go through the process, then you can go back to it and it's just as smooth as ice. Super cool, right?
You got them in state now.
Yeah, they're good with it. You've moved on and everyone's fine, okay? So I do that.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. One of the things I love to take to people is that, and by the way, he says, I don't like pressure. And then what he do, he just put the most pressure on somebody you could possibly experience, which is the weight of their own desire. But that idea that you have to get comfortable with awkwardness, I mean, honestly, that's our job. Mm-hmm. That's our job. How did you get to a point where you could kind of maintain yourself through that awkwardness? Because I got a lot of people, I show them how to do stuff, I said, but now it's going to get awkward, and they don't do it. You got to have courage to go, no, here's the time. It's time to make it awkward.
Yeah. So a lot of times, like we talked in the beginning, homeowners, it's not what they're telling you. It's how they look and the feeling that you're getting with them, right? So as soon as you're feeling it's getting to a place where they're just like, wow, this is amazing. That's the time that you should go silent and be like, so that's how it works.
Awesome.
And then they just move forward.
Then they just move forward. Just let them breach. Let them come into the space. Thank you very much, Jake. The other founder of SolarCon is here. I've had a great opportunity to have dinner with both of them this week. We got to break bread. We got to share a stage. All three of us were on the RoofCon stage yesterday, where we were the guys having the solar conversation with the people in the roofing industry. Roofing people are fascinated with solar. We're on the roof, they are the roof, and there's this coming together. Should we partner? Should we
come together? Should we use each other's companies? Should we start roofing division? Should we start solar divisions? We have a real great pleasure. We have Joe Mousakheel coming to the stage. He's been selling solar longer than I have. He's been in the solar industry forever. And now I call him the Harvey Keitel of solar. He's the fixer.
I'll take it, yeah.
Companies bring him in to help them fix their problems that they're experiencing and getting their sales flow. But today, you've been selling solar a long time, and we're just excited to have you come and share with us about selling solar.
Well, first of all, you were actually selling solar since the 80s,
okay? Well,
and then you took a
that's
break.
That's a longer story.
But
yeah,
remember that.
Right now, you've been in this solar industry longer than me, so we're glad to have you. Thanks,
Thanks, Mike.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on selling solar.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So Jake said everything I was going to say, so thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Remind me next time never to follow him because he does this every time. Amazing trainings. And this is like every day, every week, he's just offering all these trainings of value to the industry. So everybody, give Jake another hand. That was amazing, man. Now, I'm not going to sit here and train like Jake because I'm not Jake or Michael Donnelly. These guys are like the best solar closing trainers in the country. I'm just going to have a group conversation. I know we have some newer folks in the industry and some OGs here. So I want to talk about the things that I've been hearing from the solar industry and kind of the things that people are maybe misunderstanding and how solar works and what it is. And I'm on Facebook a lot. I have a group called Solar Objections, and a lot of objections on there. And one thing I've seen a lot is the value of solar. What is the value of solar? How do I get the idea what it is and how much it's worth? So let me ask you guys a question. How much does solar add to a house? Somebody raising, how much does solar add to a house? How valuable is solar?
Depends on if it's paid off or not.
Thank you. That's one thing, right? What else does it depend on? The
I
market.
mean, what type of deal that you did? I mean, was it a lease or PPA or was it a loan? Yeah.
What utility it was, what net metering it was, what state it is. So you ever see like an ad say, oh,
It's functioning.
it's functioning. Yeah. Solar is going to add 4% to your house. I look at that, I'm like, how can anybody say that with a straight face? Because what if that house was in a terrible utility, has no net metering, and there's shade over the house? Is that going to add 4% to the house? Right? So what I want to talk about is how do we get the idea of adding this value to solar to the houses. So how do we figure it out? To me, the way I have my mind wrapped around it is that solar is a medicine. Now we are doctors prescribing the medicine to the homeowners. That's how we get every question, every part of my steps towards going and helping that homeowner. Now, if you're going to a doctor, what's the way you find out? How do they find out, a doctor finds out what a patient needs? What do? Do they just look at the person and be like, I think you have some kind of disease? No, for sure. Like, you don't just guess it. What do you do?
They diagnose it,
You diagnose. How do you diagnose it?
asking questions.
Asking questions. And then you do what?
You answer.
When you prescribe the medicine, what do? You got to tell them how to use it, where to use it, when to use it, right? What is the first question a doctor, almost every single doctor, asks you as soon as you walk into the office and you sit down? What's the first question?
What hurts?
I don't know what doctor you're going to, but what brought you in today? Why? Why do they ask such an open-ended question? Because they don't want to force anything out of them. They want them to be natural with what they feel, what they need. And they're going to tell them whatever it is. So for a solar pro, what is the question? What made you decide to have this meeting today? This is like my favorite question I ask, because what happens? You can talk, it's all right, don't be shy. They puke out all this stuff sometimes. Not all the time, some people are like, oh, nothing, and then you have to pull them out of it, right? But they'll puke that out. So when you have a medicine and you have a doctor and the doctor is giving the same medicine to every single patient, what kind of doctor is that? That's not a good doctor, right? So while we're asking these questions, we've got to figure out if they, first of all, need solar and how to apply that. Now, this is something I've seen over and over again. What is the best offset for a solar system? 100%. Depends though, actually, right? There's lots of variables.
Electric, everything is 65, right?
Because what happens is every situation is different, right? There's degradation. There's how long are they going to live in the house? So one of the questions I like to ask is, how long are they planning on staying there? If you ask a homeowner how long they're planning on staying there, and they're staying there, oh, you'd be here 3-4 years. Is that the same thing as that homeowner staying there for the rest of their life? Why not?
They're gonna be out in a few years.
They could be out for years. So who are you selling that solar system to? Think about it. Are you selling that solar system to that homeowner? To the future homeowner. Do you know anything about that future homeowner? So how can you have the right offset for the future homeowner? All of a sudden the conversation changes, right? You want to focus on resale value, getting their tax credit back, getting as much money as possible for this system. If you look at degradation, do panels last the same forever? Do they just keep getting as much electricity you want forever? If that person is going to be in the home forever and they want 100% electricity and it's going to degrade 10, 15, 20% over the next 25 years, maybe add a little more offset. What's another question we ask homeowners to find out what that offset is? Raise your hand, speak out. Okay, Chris?
You're adding a hot tub, food heater, electric car, mother-in-law suite, medical marijuana cooler.
Out of 100%, out of all those things, what's the number one thing this day and age you have to ask every single homeowner now?
Florida, electric car.
Electric vehicles. How are we not asking, go ahead, Chris?
There's 5 electric commercials on the Super Bowl last year. There's 5 electric car commercials. Up to that point, there was 1 ever.
I mean, I talk to a lot of homeowners. Every single homeowner is either thinking about it or they absolutely hate them and everything, but everyone is at least thinking about it, like it's in their head. So why not ask these questions to make sure we're setting them up at the right places, right? Now, it's not only that solar is gonna not make sense for everybody, but how we designed it, how we set them up for what they need going into the future. Like Chris said, it's not only what you're prescribing them, but then how you set them up going into the future. Now, when I look at what I've been seeing a lot lately is I'm helping, look at designs and electrical and making sure the system is also right, putting the orientation right. Now, too many times we're just kind of looking at the design as it comes back. We're just gonna set it up like that and not really look at the repercussions. So part of what I do, Mike, is I actually ask the homeowner questions. Now, just because you think 100% offset on the south is going to be the best thing, and what I see with the solar pros, they just give the proposal to the homeowner, and then that's it, without asking the right questions. Because what happens? If you put all the panels in the front of the house without telling them anything, what do? Sometimes. They don't like it in the front of the house sometimes, right? So if you don't explain the reasons why you're putting them in the front of the house and what they need, then they may look at the negative implications of it, right? Now, when I'm trying to design, what is the best place to put these solar panels on? Where's the best place?
Feels like a trick question now. I'm afraid to answer.
It is a trick question, actually. It depends again, right? Because if there's a big tree on the south of the house, is that the best place to put it, Jake? Obviously not, right? So there's lots of things to consider. Now, this day and age, when we're getting proposals back, okay, you guys are nearer. When you get a proposal back, you just get it from the design and they send you a max offset. Is that what everybody's doing these days? You get a max offset and then you design it yourself? They expect reps to know exactly how to design and set the homeowners up. And have you got trained how to design, guys?
Not us, but we have people in the company that have.
But then you have to be the one to design the panels, right? Meaning you have to know where to put the panels.
Finalize that design.
Finalize that design.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that Solo or whatever proposed software, they come back and it's not always the best offset, but we don't do that extra step to make sure that the most efficient spots of the house is going to be what's there. For example, yes, if you have a south-facing roof and there's obstructions, on the front of the house, and there's more space on the west, and they've just fit like, there's like 6 panels. You're like, wait a second here. This feels like you could fit more panels in the south. Why are they forcing them on the east side of the house? And too many of us are like, well, they know what they're doing. Okay, let's just go tell the homeowner it's going to be here. Why not get that extra step? Hey, can you actually, thank you for this offset. I appreciate the max, how you designed it. But I want to see if you can fit more on the south front of the house. I mean, almost every single time they're fitting at least one more panel on there, right? They're figuring it out. And when you go back to the homeowner, now you can actually tell them, well, they wanted the design here on the east side, but what I noticed is there's more space in the south, and with the south, you get more sun exposure, you can get more electricity throughout the year. This is stuff that's gonna help you get, really relate with that homeowner so they understand that you're not just selling them a solar system. Solar doesn't make sense for everyone. We have to make sure we understand that. And when we're listening to the homeowner, what other questions are we asking the homeowner to figure out what they need? Raise your hand. What kind of questions do you ask the homeowner? Okay, another one. Solar is not just electricity. What else is solar? It's a financing. It's a financial decision. It's about money in their pocket. How many homeowners do you signed up because they signed up because climate change? They want to help their environment. None. 0 people, right? The reason why they're signing up, go ahead.
That college professor guy.
The college professor guy. The reason why they sign up for solar is because they want ROI. They want money in their pocket, right? And if you don't ask questions about their financial situations or if they know how loans work, a lot of people think loans are bad. I wonder why. Why do the people think loans are bad?
I don't want to go into debt.
I don't want to go into debt because interest. Their experience with credit cards, loans. And I ask them, besides your home, what kind of investments do you have?
Cars, home.
See, you say cars, but guess what? Homeowners don't think their cars as investments. Thank you, Jake. What they think of as the cars is what? Expensive. They hate it. It's upside down, high interest rate. Can't get rid of that loan. But then you ask them the simple question. If you didn't have that loan for your car, what else would you be doing? Taking a taxi everywhere, taking your Uber everywhere, right? So actually, a car is an investment because the other option is throwing away your money every month and getting nothing in return. So I like to ask questions about what do they do with loans? How do they like loans? Like Jake says, get into the nitty-gritty. Find out what they think about it because they'll tell you, or the spouse might tell you, but one of them will tell you, right? So I like to ask questions like, so in the past, were you the type to pay off your loans as fast as possible or just pay the minimum payments? They'll tell you, oh, you know what, Joe? I guess fit in my budget. Actually, the minimum payments, I can't even know if I can afford anything else besides that. Now you know maybe a long-term low interest rate is a good option. But if they're like, I hate loans, I can't wait to pay them off. This is like, I know I'm gonna pay it off in 2-3 years. Okay. Now, if you give that same homeowner the same loan, a 25-year, I think now it's like 299, whatever it is, you're setting that homeowner for failure now. You're adding extra costs for something they weren't even ready for. And now, why is that good? Because the other solo pro who comes in and offers them a 25-year 299 is you're gonna separate yourself from them. They can look at that person like, what are they thinking? Why would I pay all this extra money for a low interest rate? I'm going to pay this off in the next couple of years. Right? So asking the right questions will get you to the right answer. So you don't have to just get the proposal and then give it to the homeowner. Ask the right questions, figure out what they need. Anybody else? Any other questions, Jake, you could jump into? Any other questions you would have, Michael, too? Any questions you ask the homeowner to figure out what they need and if they even qualify for solar?
The big one for me is, real quick, and Chris, you can chime in this. We live in a hot climate. I live in Arizona. You live in Florida. When we see how much power that they're using, I think we tend to assume that's the amount of power they want.
Yes.
And I ask them, where do you keep the thermostat? And in Arizona, what I get a lot is 78 degrees, right? And so I'll ask them another question. When you get to a resort, where do you turn the thermostat to?
And they'll
Nice.
almost always say 72 degrees. So what's the difference between, why is the amount of power that they're using now? Why do they go solar and then a year later find out they're using more power?
100%. And this is what I tell homeowners. It's very normal that homeowners use 10 to 15% more electricity the following year once they get a solar system. Why?
Because the bill's not hitting them over the head.
You feel better using your electricity.
In the house and it's 80 degrees in the house. I'm like, is the air conditioning broken? We've been on 78. I'm like, oh, we need to fix that.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need to
they,
fix
they
that.
say, oh, we're comfortable at 78. I'm like, well, I'm here in your house that I'm not.
So-
that's a big indicator for me if they have the house on 78 or 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And they do it because of the bill. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just laugh
100%.
because they already know what I'm going to say.
Another big thing is tax credits. And that is a big deal, right? Like a lot of homeowners are going solar because of the tax credit and they don't know anything about it. They just know tax credit, 30%. Okay, let's find out about it. Now, does everybody get a tax credit? Not everybody gets a tax credit. So what's the best way you find out if this person is getting a tax credit without them getting scared or worried? What do you guys ask the homeowner?
What do you do for work?
What do you do for work? Okay.
If they ask if they're retired, I'll be like, okay, so are you retired like my mom from New York Hospital with a pension? Or are you retired like my Aunt Linda, who lives on a savings account and a modest savings account and her Social Security, which is like a little bit more like your mom, so now I know they pay taxes.
Probably find out if they're retired or not.
Because retired is very vague, right? So
Did
you
you
wanna
get
find
a,
out for sure.
do you owe money or do you get a refund?
Right.
There you go. Do you owe money, you get a refund. Matt, I saw you raise your hand.
Isn't it over if they bring in over $30,000 a year?
Well, no, because you could make over $300,000 not pay taxes, depending on your situation, right? And
Depends, again.
It depends. And it's simple for it's like sometimes you even have to ask a question. If you already ask those questions, you kind of understand the situation, but you want them to understand how the tax credit works. I simply say things very simply, but lead them towards the right answer. So it's not them thinking anymore. It's like, oh yeah, of course. It's like, okay, cool, got it, thank you. So simply I would say, the government is offering 30% off whatever it takes to go solar, as long as you pay federal taxes. You do pay federal taxes, right? Every single time. Yeah, what are you talking about? They think if they say no, the FBI raid is gonna come in. Who's not paying taxes in here? So it's really a way to get them to say, yeah, I pay federal tax, of course. Well, you get as much as you pay in federal taxes every year, even if it takes 20 years. Okay, cool, next. And then I explain even further. Hey, let's say your tax credit is $10,000. If you pay $10,000 in federal taxes, you get it all back the first year. But not everybody pays that much, so let's say you only pay $2,000 in federal taxes. Well, guess what? You'll get $2,000 every year for the next 5 years. Because either way, they're getting the money. And too many of us, I think it's a negative thing that they're getting $2,000 a year for the next 5 years. Why would getting $2,000 a year from the government be a negative thing just because they're not getting all at the same time? They can still use the money to apply it. Yeah, Rick.
So, and I'm brand new, sold one deal.
Yes, sir.
But the question that I have on the financing side, after 18 months, it reamortizes. So even if they get that $2,000 down the road, their payment goes up from the initial, if you're financing that way, So, how do you address that, I guess, if I'm at 200 and my electric bill's at 200, but it's gonna go to 350 in 18 months, I'm not able to pay that down, so it's going to adjust on me. How do you?
Well, there's many different answers to this. There's many different loans. There's different creative ways to use the money. For example, if you're getting $2,000 every year and their electricity bill is $2,000 a year, they're paying their electricity bill off for the next 5 years, right? Also, when I first started selling solar, it wasn't like it makes sense for every single homeowner. They could save money on day one, and it wasn't like that when I first started selling solar. It was one of these curve things. Like, if you know you're gonna go solar one day, then you might as well get it now. Why keep throwing away your money if you're gonna go solar one day? So there's this chart that we all use. I don't know if Jake, I'm sure, OG, Michael, I'm sure. You just chart before when it didn't make sense day one. You show a curve, what they're doing now. Even if it's cheaper right now, eventually it's gonna go higher. And if you know by this point you're going to go solar, why throw away all this money? Does that make sense, my hand movements? like I'm doing karate moves here. Does that make sense?
It does, but I still, the disconnect for me still is, Mr. Homeowner, I'm gonna sell you a $200 a month payment, because they're buying payments most of the time anyway. It's comparable to my current rate. I know this is gonna go up. At some point out here, it may get to 350 or whatever, but it's probably not gonna be 18 months. So my offset's still different out here, and I don't know if people even get hung up on that. Maybe I'm making too big a deal out of it, but I like to be straightforward with people and go, dude, you're getting $1,500 back, over the next 2 years. So that's, $3,000, and you got a $10,000 offset that I'm applying to this loan right now that's gonna increase down here. Do you get into the weeds with that, and how do you deal with that?
No, it's completely different in every situation, and every homeowner is different, right? Not even every homeowner is going to agree to that. Like, they don't all want to pay monthly payments. Maybe they want to do a quicker ROI, and they want to do a small dealer-free loan, and that's a different situation. But honestly, when I first started selling solar, I wasn't saving money. It would take years to get there. Like, you're saying 18 months. I'm talking about 3 to 5 years.
I'm just
Then
talking about the amortization, where it re-amortizes. Is the loans I've been looking at, like Goodleap, will do an 18-month, introductory rate, and then it goes up if you don't apply all your credit, but you're giving the credit for the
What proposal tool are you
payment.
using?
Huh?
What proposal tool are you using? Solo?
Quativa.
Quativa?
Yeah.
And does that have a little box you can check that shows
The
what
amount.
the payment will go
The
to
19.
if, after 18 months,
Yeah.
if you do not?
Yeah,
Right, so when you start the proposal, don't check that box.
okay.
Good, it's an interesting idea. There's lots of ideas and different ways you can do it. So what he's suggesting is that you sell the higher payment and let them, and then let them find out, oh, if I apply it, first of all, it will be lower to start with, and if I apply it, it'll be there. By the way, they may not want to apply that money towards a solar loan. Right? So why not apply it to a high interest loan instead of a low interest loan? If they have credit card debt, it'd be silly to put the money there. So the buy down amount, the reamortization is an opportunity. They may, but also don't assume that they don't, and I know what you're concerned about. If I'm getting a $15,000 tax credit and it's $200 for the first 18 months, if I don't apply, it goes to $260. First of all, you're the one freaking out about the $60 a month. They're not. When they go to write a check, do you think it really matters to them if they write a check for $200 or $260 or what? They're paying $5,000 a month in bills. That's $60. Now the question is, what do they want to do with that tax credit? How soon will they get it? Do they want to apply it right away? Do they want to apply it to something else? So don't assume and take on their concern. We do this all the time. We're gonna get up here as a group in a few minutes, talk about a concern going on right now about financing, because it's going up and everybody's concerned at the same time about it. We're sitting in this room freaking out about it. Okay, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. All right, so don't assume and take on their problems and make them, because you may be worried about the $60, they may not. And what I find is typically that 60, if they don't apply it, a lot of times the utility bill looks like a lot like the one they're paying now. And so you're worried that you're not selling savings. We got to quit selling savings. Don't sell them a payment, sell them solar. Sell them the benefits of solar. So start getting out of that mindset that you're selling savings, because we may not be selling savings. And so also don't assume that they don't have other resources that they can use. They can pay any amount they want in 18 months. A lot of solar financing companies will let them pay any amount at any time to buy the payment down or shorten the term. Just make sure they're, a lot of companies do, some do. I know the major ones now let you make additional payments later. So if it took you 3 years to get the tax credit.
But that just pays the principal down? Does the payment adjust?
Yes. Yeah, many financing companies, in other words, say you weren't going to get the tax credit all in 1 year, it's going to take you 3 years, they would let you make several payments to get the payment down, or they could use that money for something else, or they could throw it at the loan and shorten it up. So explain how it works, make sure they understand it, but don't take on their problems. That make sense? Awesome.
That they're not getting is gonna catch up to them anyway. Via increase in the utility, so it's not, they're paying it either way, they might as well get to the finish line.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Matt?
Continue, Joe.
So quick question. So what you guys are talking about, it sounds like, is the difference of taking that tax credit and then paying that straight into the loan to keep the payment lower, or choosing the option to not?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's up to the homeowner. A lot of times we assume that they're going to put it all back in the loan, but actually, from my experience, most of the time homeowners don't put it back into the loan, right? They actually keep it.
Very few of the loans actually ever end up having the tax credit put in. We find that out. And a lot of them are paid off within 5 years. We didn't know that until the loan started telling us. We're always talking about knocking on doors, closing for appointment. You've knocked on a lot of doors.
Before solar, I
right?
actually started selling solar closing.
But you've
before-
also made a lot of appointments without knocking on doors.
Oh, yeah.
You're the king of other ways to make appointments. What are some
Yes.
of those ways that we can possibly think about making appointments that maybe we're not that knock on door guy, or we want to add something to that knock on door way to get them?
When COVID hit, I had to go from a solar seminar tour of California, booked for 2020, every weekend. I went from hero to zero. So I had to decide, figure out what to do. So I went virtual. And I tried to start setting appointments virtually. Didn't work out so well. I take that back. It started amazing. I set up like 100 appointments for a homeowner set on a Zoom. I was like, this is easy. I'm gonna be a billionaire doing this. 3 people showed up. And I learned quickly that it's not just gonna be an easy transition. What I learned was making appointments virtually was a little different. So some little tips and tricks that I've done making appointments virtually. So first thing I learned was that not every homeowner is ready to jump on Zoom. We're like, yeah, let's get on Zoom. And they're like, okay, yeah, Joe, I see you on Zoom, And guess what happens? Everybody gets ghosted, right? You're sitting there on Zoom, I get to see such a good appointment. Where is this person? And then like 10 minutes later, you're like, this is not going good, right? They're gone, they don't show up. What's a great way to get them to show up? It's so obvious. Don't talk about Zoom. Literally, this helped my appointments show up rate skyrocket. Set up another phone call. Why? Because they're already on the phone with you. I'm talking about opt-in leads who call in, you're setting up an appointment. You're already on the phone with them. So set up another phone call to get to that Zoom. When that next phone call happens, then, oh yes, actually I want to show you something. You mind if I share my screen? And then just put them on Zoom from that point if you want to go on Zoom. So that was a big skyrocket for me. Just set them on the phone. Another thing was, I loved some things because technology in these days, you can actually, like, say they don't answer the phone. These are the little tips and tricks. Say they don't answer the phone. Instead of saying, hey, this is Joe, and I wanted to sell you solar, and just call me back. What I would actually do is take a screenshot of their roof, send them a text, and say something simply, I was just looking over your roof. Looks like there was a tree on the southwest side of your house. Just wanted to know how high the tree is going. That gave me a way higher response rate and start of a conversation, and separated me from the competition, right? Because other people aren't doing it. Now you guys are going to do it. Great. No, but I'm just these are kind of tips and tricks.
What's
yeah,
the
Rick.
timing in that? Where would you do that? You've already talked to them once and then
No.
you're trying to reconnect? Or
It's just trying to get them to connect with you initially,
Okay.
right? Like that's the hardest part sometimes because when they giving you got that information, there's probably like 7 or 8 other reps with the same exact information and calling them around clock. So you have to really separate yourself from the competition that way. I'm trying to think of another tip that I did. I was setting appointments over the phone. You got any, Jake?
How did the seminars work? Before
No.
COVID, you were doing the seminars. I don't think any of us have tried that. You've got experience there, and COVID's over. Maybe that's another opportunity.
It could be, and it was amazing. And my part, I was hyper-focused on the presentation, talking to the room, closing the deals. The hard part was Smart Energy Today set would actually get the people in the room. So if you're able to get the marketing plan with a marketing CMO or company that you can fill up rooms, what they did was send postcards out. There's gonna be a free dinner, come and dinner, you get information about solar, and they'll show up. For me, I was able to talk to a full room. It wasn't like they were gonna close like at that moment. What then I would do is after the presentation, explain solar, how it works, sell the sizzle, as we say. We go back, I go right to the home all week and go to the next house, next house, next house.
So you were offering a ton of content and information that was free and no pressure.
Exactly.
And then having them set an appointment to see their house and their quote close.
Yes.
How did that work out?
It worked amazing, and that's part of the kind of a two-touch close. It made it a lot easier where they already know they already have everything set up. They understand how solar works. Now it's like, what are the next steps? They have some objections. They have those final objections. Those buying signs are actually, and that's when you just kind of settle about the next step. That's actually a great way of doing it, but it is hard marketing-wise, getting a room full of homeowners ready to listen about solar. And
I did a lot of seminars for selling stem cells.
Nice.
And what we would do is funnel them into seeing if like the thing's right for them. So if solar's right for their home, and do a detailed, fit for them. Like
Exactly.
Fitment, proposal, whatever.
Exactly. So I was going to wrap it up with a couple of objections. People, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, you're known as the Solar Objections. You started the website, the Facebook group Solar Objections. That's how I got to know you. Yeah, would love to hear you talk about what you learned by being the Solar Objections guy.
Well, the reason why I started Solar Objections was it was after COVID again, and I wanted to kind of utilize social media and Facebook, but I was already utilizing Facebook. I already became a group expert, as they say in the Facebook groups. And what does that mean? Actually joining these groups, giving value, helping. And through these groups, I've noticed that the most engaging questions were objections and questions about solar, as opposed to somebody standing up and just training everybody. And I would answer these questions, and a couple of times I won contests. That was kind of fun. Like, Bill Murphy did a objection handling contest, $250. Like one of my first ones, I was like, answer the question. I won $250. I was like, wait, maybe I got something here. Okay. Even though it's not a lot of money, but it's cool to win a contest like that, right? And I just noticed that I was answering objections and get a lot of reaction. I was like, okay, so got something going on here. So I said, you know what? This is the most engaging part of Facebook's I've been into. Let's start a group focused on that. And what I've learned is that there's lots of objections out there, and that we're all not against each other, right? Sometimes it feels like the industry, everybody's like competing against each other. But so objections is the community coming together and helping each other out answers those objections. So there's lots of different objections,
You don't
but
have to do it all by yourself, do you?
no, not at
You
all.
don't have an answer, somebody else might have one.
And it's not only if I don't have an answer, right? I could have an answer, but there's so many different perspectives. And there's so many different homeowners' personalities, right? And sometimes you have to mesh that specific trait or characteristic with that personality with the homeowner too. So it's cool to hear like 10 to 15 different ways to answer an objection. Like, oh, didn't even think about that. Sometimes a rookie, first week in solar, is having the best answer than anybody else because they see it with fresh eyes. They see it a little different, right? And that's kind of how objections are, right? And if you don't practice answering objections, what's going to happen?
You get rusty.
You get rusty. You're going to stumble. So one of the most important things with answering objections is practicing. Knowing what you're going to say. Have your lines ready to go. And it's going to sound it's not going to sound rehearsed because you've practiced it so much. So anybody have any objections that you guys have that are hard to handle? I don't know if you guys are a little newer in the industry. Any objections that's, all right, I'll give you one that I know you guys are going to get. Can you just email me the quote? Has anybody ever got that one yet?
Every day.
Every single day. Can you just email me the quote? And then your initial reaction is like, no, why would I just email you something? What am I, just chop liver? You don't want to talk to me? Right? You have that instinct, but no, actually understand where they're coming from. They don't know how solar works, how to get presented. So I say, of course. I'm so excited to send you the proposal and it's going to be ready. I just got a couple more questions I want to ask you to make sure it's finalized and customized for you and your family. So is Wednesday or Thursday better to go over with you? Right? So be ready with an answer. Sure, I'm so excited to send you the proposal. It's going to be amazing. But just have a couple more questions I want to ask you to get it finalized and customized for your home and family. Is Wednesday or Thursday better for you to go over those questions? And they don't fight back in most cases. Every homeowner is different. I don't want to generalize any homeowner, but that's worked for me over my career.
Is this, you're saying this is at the door?
Well, I mean, for me, it's like I'm having conversations. So at the door, in person, since COVID, I've been much more virtual on the phones for sure. Any objections you guys have that you ask that seems to be, oh yeah, Michael is going to give me one here.
I'm pretty sure that I'm going to move someday.
Yes, that's very likely. So now for me, that would be asking more questions about where are they going, how are they doing it, because some people think, oh, I'm moving and that's it. That's not the case. Yeah, but what if they're moving and then they're going to rent out their house? That completely changes the conversation, right? You're going to, instead of renting, on top of renting your home, now you can rent out your solar system to the homeowner.
I'm pretty sure they're moving in the next 2 years. Would you, from a genuine perspective, would you recommend they go solar or probably hold off?
Go solar if it makes sense. And the reason why a lot of people say no to 2 years, but in a lot of situations I've noticed, especially depending on the utility, that they can lower their bill and keep the tax credit. And when they move, they just transfer the loan to the next homeowner. Guess what? When the homeowner is looking at their options, either pay a less low monthly payment that's balanced every month or a higher one that's going to keep going higher and higher, which one are they going to choose?
The house is more marketable.
It was more marketable. But not only that, they get to keep $10,000 tax credit where they just instantly made profit from the solar system. And they can just transfer this to the next homeowner. So if you're moving in 2 years, Mike, why wouldn't you take that solar system? Wouldn't it make sense?
Turn it on its head.
Right?
If you're moving in 2 years, you should definitely.
100%.
So, are all the loans automatically transferable to the new homeowner?
I can't say all the loans, but most of the loans that we're working
Everyone
with,
I've seen is.
yeah, most of the ones we're working with are transferable from what I've
Leases
seen.
as well. Leases and loans, everyone I've seen is transferable to the next homeowner.
Hey, Matt. Okay. So last thing I'll talk about objections is basic stuff too, because I know there's some newer people here. And when you answer your objection, it's so reactive to be like, you want to answer the question. Like, you just want, oh, I got another answer. I'm just like, this is what it is. That's actually the worst thing to do, right? And it's really simple to remember the 3 Fs. The OGs know the 3 Fs. Feel, felt, found. Use this on every objection, and the more you do it, the more it'll become natural, and you won't say the same exact phrase. Yeah, I totally understand how you feel. My other customer felt the same way, and this is how you're gonna start using it in different ways. But I like to use like analogies and using my wife Brenda, my mom, whatever stories you can use. So, for example, my mom, I'll tell you this story. So whenever a homeowner talks about free solar, anybody ever heard of the objection about, I thought our solar was free?
We're always sounding like it's free.
Yeah, it's free. And they're like, wait, Joe, there's a price here. I thought it was free. What's going on here? And I say, I totally get what you're saying. See, I didn't say, I totally understand how you feel. I totally get what you're saying, but the same thing. Actually, my mom had the same exact question before she went solar with me. And then I explained what happened. And what happened was her friend had free solar, she thought, and it was actually a PACE program where they didn't get a payment for 18 months, and the person selling her solar told her it was free. She found out the hard way that she was going to get another payment in 18 months. It was still better than what she was doing with the utility, so it was all good, but she wasn't free, right? But now telling that story to the homeowner, it's not just me telling him, you're stupid if you think solar is free. It's more like, no, I get it. People think it's, but it's actually confused, and this is why. So practicing using feel, felt, found. I totally, in the beginning, this is how you do it. I totally understand how you feel. A referral felt the same exact way. This is how they answered the question. This is how they overcome the question after that. So remember, feel, felt, found. That's it for me. Anybody have any questions, any objections they want to handle before I go? I want to try to give as much value as possible. Everybody's good? Yes.
When you set up that call, right, with the customer that says, send me an estimate, and you set up that you have the person that want to, go over a few questions for you. You set it up for, 3 days from now. How do you handle that when you're on the phone with them? Because they're going to say, okay, I answered your questions. Can you send me an estimate now?
Actually reminded me of another thing too on top of that I want to answer. Another way of making an appointment, I've noticed it's really hard for reps. This is like one of the most, I'll answer your question, but this reminded me of something. What's frustrating is what? Getting both spouses at the appointment, right? And what happens is like, We just talk about the appointment, we're setting it up, and at the end, we could be there Wednesday, Thursday, and then, oh, you're gonna bring your wife too, right? And they're like, what? Now they're in a bad mood. They don't even like the conversation anymore. So a little tip and trick to do to get spouses to show up is simply talk about it from the beginning. Right from the beginning, talk about the spouse throughout the whole presentation. I love to ask simply the question, how many people live at your house? How many people live at your house? Sounds so simple, right? But that actually gives you a lot of information, and then you could talk about the spouse. So if they say, yeah, actually 3 people live here, awesome. So your child and your husband? Yeah, it's what's your husband's name? Oh, Chris, cool. What does he think about solar house? All of a sudden, Chris is part of the conversation, right? So then you do it from the beginning, bring him up in the middle, ask questions about, hey, how does Chris feel about how they look on the roof? Bring out objections from the spouse too. And then at the end, when you say, oh yeah, don't forget to bring Chris, then I can be like, why you bring that up now? They've been talking about Chris the whole time. He's actually part of the conversation. It's gonna be much more natural. Sorry to do that, but go ahead, now ask your question now. Okay, so
how would you handle it when you set up that phone call with that customer? If they tell you again, okay, now that answered your questions, can you send me the estimate?
I mean, that's exactly what we talked about before, right? Like, yeah.
Right, but you said that how you counter that. You said, yeah, I'd love to send you the estimate, no problem. Just I need to ask you a few more questions to be able to give you the best.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring the estimate myself.
Oh, because you're gonna do it.
Yeah, that's the
the
key.
phone call.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key, or Zoom or in-home presentation. Yes, Vanessa.
One of the most hard for me is like when you go to the door and once they hear solar, it's like I don't like I'm not interested. Go away.
Yeah.
Get out of my property. So how are you?
Yeah, no, a lot of times using the word solar is scary, right? They've heard bad things about it. I'm not the door knocker. Jake is and Michael Donald is. I did door knocking with other things. But one thing I've done and worked really well when I was out there is trying to not focus on how many doors you knock on, but how many doors open. That's been a big difference maker. Props, going to one house of a neighborhood, doing things like that. But things that worked for me personally when I knocked on a door, this is one that I love to do. It's just simple though, but it just works almost every time. It feels good for me to do it because I'm not being pushy or anything. I'm like, knock, knock, knock. I stand back. I'll be just looking at the roof. I'm like, just like curious, just like this. And then they always open the door like, hey, what's going on? I just noticed your roof, there's a lot of sunshine. Is there any reason why you don't have solar panels up there? So instead of saying it like, oh, are you interested in solar? Just ask them a simple question about solar. I'm not a person who says, don't say the word solar ever. There's a lot of people who say that. I'm not scared of the word solar. I think solar is amazing, right? But you can talk about generating your own electricity. Instead of saying saving money, talk about the production of electricity is something I usually use. Talking about generating, getting power on your own, getting your own power is a big one. In Texas, it would be huge. They love to get their own power, right? Power from the utility, stuff like that. All right, guys, if you have any questions, you need anything from me, I'm Joe. You should guys go on Facebook. If you haven't gone to Solar Objections yet, it's not just me. Jake has had an amazing post today or yesterday. Check it out, for sure.
Joe Mousakheel.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome, Mr. Solar Joe, Solar Objections. I want to ask Jake to come back up. Guys, another segment of this conversation is going to be on the hot topic. Chris and I were talking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, watching the GOAT win the football game at the last second. Mr. Tom Brady, his CEO was there. We were having this conversation about the seismic shift, right? We had Goodleap up on the stage yesterday, and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm glad this is a roofing audience, not a solar audience, because the entire audience would be rushing the stage to put me onto some kind of burning totem pole or something. So this is a seismic shift we're going through, and we've been watching this train come at us in slow motion, right? We heard the Fed increase interest rates, and I think the first one was in April, right? And then the next one a month later, and then the next one a month later. And it seemed like it wasn't really going to affect us because Goodleap didn't change their rates right away, Mosaic didn't change their rates right away, Dividend, but all of a sudden about midway through the summer, boom, we got the first one. Then we got another one. We just got handed another one. Chris, what did we just find out? What did you guys get today? Sunder Freedom? 899. And it was just the day, it was just a short time ago, what, 599, right? Yesterday it was 6.59. So 599, 6.59, and it went to 899 for a zero dealer fee, 25-year loan. That's a seismic shift in the cost. 959. So we're talking about literally, a categoric change in really what's going to be, because we sell solar on financing, zero down monthly payments for probably 90% of our sales, right? Probably more than that. Let's say 10% of them are other terms. So, what do you see happening in the industry? Are you getting people calling kind of freaked out? I know I am. What kind of conversations are you having with people?
Yeah, it's a really good topic right now. So something that you have to understand about the banks is take Goodleap for example. When they were doing a 199, when the economy started, the interest rate started climbing up like this and started going up, that 199,
there we go.
What's up? That 199, they take these paper that the homeowner signs and they go and sell it to bigger banks, bigger people, right? And so when it's a 199 and the interest rates are going up, that contract actually becomes less valuable. And so when they sign that contract, the longer that contract sits there before that account hits TPO, why am I saying TPO? PTO. As a roof con. PTO, the less valuable that contract is. There's a few things we're going to see other than the interest rates changing, and that's why the interest rates are changing, right? There's a few things we're going to see. You guys are about to hear that M1 payments are going to be taken away from most banks. They're going to stop M1 payments. And when they stop M1 payments to installers are going to stop giving it to sales orgs and sales reps. The shift is coming, right? Another thing that you're going to hear is leases and PPAs are going to become more prevalent. They're going to become more of an option because interest rates are going up higher, and sometimes it makes a little bit more sense to do PPAs and leases, right? You're going to start to see these shifts in the industry. I know that, Ken and I have seen them before. What was I saying?
Interest rates.
Don't do drugs.
The M1s are changing. You're talking about the M1s changing.
Yeah, M1's change. M1's change. So for those of you that are building your businesses off of receiving this, I call it a loan from the installers. The installers are actually taking a loan from the big banks. The more risk you're creating for your business. If you are an experienced sales rep, the very top sales reps actually create the habit of telling their installation company or whoever they're dealing with, whoever they're getting that commission from, to not pay an upfront payment when the contract is signed. If you can do that with your installer, they're going to have some mad respect for you. I mean, they're going to look at you and be like, damn, like that's cool, right? You have now separated yourself away from the competition. Don't be afraid of these banks changing terms on you. What I recommend doing is embracing it. Now that you've heard that these M1 payments are going to stop coming, I highly encourage you guys to go back to your organizations or even your own company that you're working with and ask them to please stop paying you. If you can do that now, and you can get acclimated to that now, you're going to go through all of the pains and bumps and all of the objections that your sales reps have and all of the things that are going to happen when this happens. You're going to go through it before anyone else. And so when it happens and everyone's freaking out, they're going to come to you and you're going to be smooth as ice. You're going to be like, this is how you handle it. This is what you do. And you're always a step ahead of the industry if you can adopt these things before. Do not fear them, embrace them, and run towards them as fast as you can.
In other words, finance your own cash flow instead of having somebody else finance your cash flow. You haven't earned any money till the glass is on the roof.
Right.
Somebody handing you money before that is them making you a loan. And by them giving you a loan, you're causing an expensive situation and a cash flow situation. We have a question.
The M1, that's just the upfront payment?
That's the payment that usually occurs within the first week, 2 weeks of the entire process between sale and install.
Okay.
And
So
some
it means
sales
milestone one. Sometimes there's milestone one, and then the last milestone will be at install. Sometimes there could be 3 or 4 milestones, depending on your lender and when they pay out the contract.
Some sales reps are going to freak out because this is how I pay my bills. I don't know what I'm doing. I will tell you right now, those sales reps sell less than most other people. Okay, they need that money coming in. Don't expose yourself. That's the tall tale that if you say, oh, I sell a ton of accounts, and they're like, I need the money up front. It's like, you don't.
Dude, this is a massive play to get yourself to sell more solar.
because people are selling a solar and they're usually accustomed to getting $1,000 right away. Then they wait another 60 days and they get the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
So they're not waiting for it. They're living off those. And I always tell people, kind of live off the upfront payments, and then when the back end ones come, it'll be like, a big check landing on your head. You're not expecting it, but kind of reverse it up, in other words, and live on your means. But now you need to sell more solar and load that pipeline.
Exactly. One last statement I want to make about that. For those of you that are looking for those upfront payments, that's okay. You've been doing that, but don't start jumping installers, because some installers are going to look at this as an opportunity. They're going to look at their bank account and be like, we could actually fund upfront payments for another 3 months. And they're going to advertise. They're going to take advantage. So when other companies can't do it, they're going to take it away from you, and you guys are going to freak out, like you're going to short circuit like a robot, like I need my
run
upfront,
over
I need
here.
my upfront, and you're going to go and jump to another installer. That installer that's holding on to that process is actually creating damage, because they're going to pull it out from you anyway. They're just doing it later, and you're putting yourself in a critical situation because you're learning not to handle it now, and you're learning to handle it behind everyone else that stayed, right? That installer is also putting them in a position for a cash flow and capital situation where they could potentially be putting themselves out of business if they're not extremely careful by doing that. So don't get tricked. It's like a fishing lure where they're pulling it in and trying to get you to bite it, but eventually you're going to land back in the boat, right? Don't get tricked into doing this. Don't jump your installers just because they're taking it away first. That was all.
By the way, MOD Mob, if you've got a question, just text it into the text and I can get it to one of the three of us as well. So I think, Joe, one of the really big circumstances that we're going to be facing is that it's not necessarily that it's changing for the homeowner, it's changing for us.
Yeah.
So we've been used to showing somebody a 1.99 or a 0.99 or a
exactly.
0.49. Now that was never real anyway, right? We were always using the dealer fee to buy the interest rate down. That became a thing in about 2017, 18. Before that, we did mostly PPAs and leases.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I did almost exclusively leases in Arizona. And and that was because the interest rates were 5.99, 6.99. And it wasn't until interest rates started to fall to bring the economy back, which is they did, it roared back, that we started saying, hey, wow, if we use this dealer fee, which are points into a loan, that makes the interest rate down, and everybody thought it was because it looked good. Oh, wow, 1.99, that looks so good. That didn't have anything to do with it. The reason that we went, 5.99 to 1.99, it wasn't because it looked good, it's because it moved cost out of the APR, and it moved it into the price of the equipment. Well, where does the tax credit go? Did we get a tax credit on the APR, on the interest? No. None. We get zero. We get this 30% now, yay, 30%. We get a 30% tax credit on the price of the equipment. So why don't we move the financing cost into the price of the equipment? And then the payment would drop $30, $40. Same system, same equipment, same 25 years. We just made the interest rate lower and the price of the equipment higher, and now the payment dropped $40. Well, why would you not do that?
Right.
Well, now with interest rates being maybe 5.99 in a contract or 4.99, whatever we're going to move them to, all of a sudden you compare 2.99 and all of a sudden it's not that big of it. Now it's a lot of money to move cost into 25 years of financing. So it may not make as much sense as it has in the past, but that's really in our mind.
Exactly.
We're the ones who are freaking out about 2.99, 5.99. Joe, what can we do? Like the person who's looking at solar, did they see the proposal we were doing 6 months ago? Who's wrapped around the axle about this number? Is it us?
It's us.
Or is it the customer?
It's 100% us, and it's our mindset, right? It comes down to us explaining things to the homeowner. If we have the understanding that the utility is charging 100% interest for every dollar they spend, then a 4.99 is amazing compared to that, right? And for me, with my mindset, I just focus on things I can control. I don't focus I can't control. I feel like Goodleap, Mosaic, they're doing their best to give us the best loans possible. And this is a little nugget, I don't know if you guys know, but Goodleap is not keeping that dealer fee. They keep like $1,500. All that goes to the big banks. So they're doing their best. So I'm not going to tell, hey, Goodleap, what are you doing? I'm going to say, this is their best options we have. I'm going to use these as tools and to help this homeowner the best way I can. That's it. Use what you have available. Maybe add more tools than what's available to you. But instead of focusing on the negatives that this is going higher, it's still probably, depending on the situation, better than what the homeowner is doing currently. And focus on that. That'll make it a lot different.
So Jake, what's your thoughts about
people who've been out there used to selling, oh, look, solar is $47 a month cheaper. Do you think people were going solar because it was 47 to somewhere?
Somewhere, yeah.
Because it was savings, 47. Maybe in California it was 87.
Right.
Right? You're saving more money in California because we're competing against the utility.
Right.
If we're out selling savings, if we've been taught to sell solar by selling savings, what are we in for? And then what should we be transitioning to?
Yeah, ever since I've started solar, I've noticed that the solar has gone up. I believe we were selling at 16 cents a kilowatt hour back then.
15
15
is
cents
where
a
we
kilowatt hour.
started.
And now
that's California.
And that was California.
Yeah,
San Diego.
15
San
cents a
Diego,
kilowatt hour in
yeah.
San Diego. And now
Arizona, we sell at 10.
But listen to this
Right.
though.
And now most companies are pricing it around 21, 22 cents a kilowatt hour because the utility has also gone up.
Right.
So as things go up, so does solar. The price of solar is always going to adjust and change with it, right? Forgot your question. Did I answer it?
Does
If
answer
you've
your
been
question.
selling savings and now the savings have
Oh.
diminished or are gone,
Yep.
how are we going to sell solar now?
So we should look at markets that are thriving and actually probably beating markets like California on a per customer basis, like Washington State, Idaho. These markets don't necessarily Arizona are not necessarily saving homeowners money immediately. There's terms called future proofing, right? We're going to future proof.
Yeah.
We show them how fast the money has gone up and that they're going to stay flat, and then eventually within a few years they're going to hit this mark. And when you're future proofing, rates going up and inflation, and you guys, I tell the story. I'm like, my grandpa was one of those guys that used to be like, hey, I remember when I bought soda, it used to be a nickel. He's like, I'm not going to pay $2 for a bottle of soda. It's just weird for people to understand that, right? So we're going to look back at this and we're going to say, hey, you're getting solar for that nickel and it's just going to stay there. It is a little more expensive. Maybe it's the $2 like he didn't want to pay. It is a little more expensive, but there will be a time where that utility surpasses that. And we already know that because if we look at the history has told us that the utility company that we're using has literally in the history of this utility never gone down. It has only gone up. So it'll help. You shouldn't sell off of savings. To answer your question about a loan, what if we don't apply the tax credit? Don't sell on savings. You guys need to ask these homeowners all of their reasons that they want to go solar. Joe was hitting on this. I told you all the reasons they don't want to, and I made them feel comfortable with it. Towards the end of it, I asked them, okay, why did you choose this? What was the reason? And I get them to sell me on all the reasons they want to go solar. You need to sell all the reasons why they want to go solar and have them understand. Part of what you should put in there is have them understand, well, what if you don't save money? Do you still want to go? That's one of my questions. And you go, yeah, I think I would. Okay, why do you say that? And they start to answer it. And when they start answering it, they're selling themselves on the non-savings just in case something happens that you miss, like an electrical upgrade, and it bumps it up to the same rate. They've already got that idea in their head that they're not saving and it's okay.
Do people buy homes, Joe, because it costs less than renting?
No.
They could get the same home.
They definitely don't.
Right.
They buy it because of the ownership and the future proofing too, right? It's a nest egg they can have in the future.
So
100%.
if someone's looking at solar and I'm out there selling $67 a month, $37 a month savings, and all of a sudden that savings is now kind of insignificant. I would say the 37 was insignificant anyway. That's why
Right.
I've never sold. So in Arizona, where we're selling against 16 to 18 cent power and the solar is going to be 10 to 12, there was a savings there, but it was $37 a month. I would point out that was, $400 or $500 a year maybe, but that's not a reason to buy a $50,000 thing.
Right.
What's the reason? Why am I going to buy a $50,000 thing? What if it costs the same amount of money?
A lot of homeowners care about ownership. So that's what we talk about, right? You're going to be able to own your own power. I like to say generate your own electricity. And with that comes all the benefits. You're maybe paying this amount now, but it's going to get better and better and better as opposed to what's the other option? Get worse and worse and worse. So I love to do is put my homeowners in the future. This works really beautifully for me. I'll say something like, okay, let's say you didn't get the solar system. 10 years from now, and you look back, what decision should you have made? One option is your bill is $500 a month and it's going higher and higher and higher, there's no ending. And you spent $30,000 to get to that. The other one is it's $0 or $10 a month, whatever is the utility, and it's staying like that and you own your electricity now for the rest of the solar system. Right? I said it poorly at that time, but that kind of idea, put them in the future and let them look back and say, what decision should I have made 10 years later, right? Go ahead, Matt.
So, question, 25 years later, once they're paying off that loan and they don't have a utility bill, are the solar cells working well? Or are they saving that exponential amount of money later?
How many customers have that question?
Yeah, I know. That's a definitely good
I
question.
literally knocked on a lady's door. She goes, I would go solar, but these things cost a lot of money, and I know I'm going to have to replace them, like 3 times in the next 10 years. I'm like, what planet are you on? She
Yeah.
doesn't
They don't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question, and we have to realize that solar panels don't just last 25 years, right? They definitely degrade, and they're not going to be as strong as they are now in 25 years. But most panels, if I'm seeing, are 80 to 85% after 25 years. That doesn't mean they're going to stop. They're going to keep working after that. So a lot of times homeowners think it's going to end at that time. That could be the best time because your electricity bill is going to be higher than they ever been, and your system is now paid off. What would you want to do with that solar system? You're not giving that up for nothing, right?
So are you dropping down to like an 85% offset at that point?
No,
Every panel is different.
There's 2 warranties on panels and inverters. One of them is a product warranty, and one of them is performance or power output warranty. And that doesn't mean kilowatt hours produced. A lot of sales reps think that the warranty is kilowatt hours produced for the home. They say, oh, don't worry, it's going to produce power for the 25 years. That is not what the warranties say. The product warranty is specifically on the manufacturing of the product, the workmanship on it. The performance warranty is not kilowatt hours produced because they don't know if you're going to put that solar panel underneath the kitchen sink for the next 25 years or on a south-facing roof. So how can they put a kilowatt hours produced warranty on it? They don't. It's how much electricity can run through the power at any given time. That's a performance warranties, right? So the 25-year performance warranty is different than a 10-year product warranty. And if degradation begins to happen and those cells start to break and crack, that's a product issue. The 25 years is now obsolete because the 10 years is up, right? So what I like to do is I like to sell solar panels that have a 25-25. I take the semantics out of it.
Performance.
25-year product, 25-year performance. So a lot of times the very solar panels that you guys are selling, and this is a huge point, when you're going up against competitors and you're selling Q-cell panels, and the other competitor is selling Q-cells and you're wondering why the price is so different, a lot of times it's not because of the company you work at. The higher performance warranties, the 25-25 Q-cells, are more expensive than the Q-cells that do not have a 25-25. And if you know that option, if you know what those models are, you just Google it, it's not hard. If you know what those models are, then you can explain this to the homeowner and say the reason we're a little bit more expensive is because of this, and you explain that, and they're gonna be like, wow. Right?
What a way to differentiate yourself.
Right.
Oh, you can spend about the same amount of money and have peace of mind for 25 years.
Yep.
Or you can spend about the same amount of money and be worried what's going to happen after 10. That's a huge,
So what's
huge,
that
huge
look
thing.
like at that 25-year mark
Go ahead, Michael.
for the homeowner?
You guys are the technical guys. I'm going to defer to you.
Okay, so what does it look like after the 25 years?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the panels are degraded at 50%, right? So who cares? At year 25, everything's going exactly like the warranty said, and then 25-year, you wake up and it's 50% performance now.
It went from 87 to 25. They call it straight line for a reason, though, right? Typically, you can have an expectation that degradation is sort of a straight line after the first year.
And what I tell homeowners, I'm like, if you're anything like me, base it on worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
Whatever goes wrong happens to me. So you're gonna go like this for 25 years. That day ends the birthday of the anniversary of the 25th year, and then boom, it goes down to 50%. Let's plan on that. You're still getting 50% of your power for free, right? You're only buying 50% from utilities, so it doesn't matter how much it degrades because we know it's going to. You can't avoid that. Anything that sits in the sun is going to degrade, right? And you have to accept that. So if it's going down, the question is how much less are you going to pay your utility after they go down, right? How much more are solar panels going to be at that time? Because as we've learned, they get more and more expensive. Labor is going to get more expensive. All of the costs like employment tax, everything is going to become more expensive later. And so if you have solar panels that are even producing half of your power 25 years from now, that should be a benefit and not a detriment to
But the expectation is it's going to be, the warranty is going to, it'll be where it left off with the warranty and continue to degrade at that same linear number.
It should, but I plan on
small
worst case.
percentage.
So do you ever talk to somebody, a lot of times when people are selling based on savings or like over the years, sometimes they have a chart how much you're gonna save over the 25 years. Do you ever talk about 30 years, 40 years?
There are those charts out there. I don't like to use them because I think they're gimmicky. What I do is I say, I just draw a simple one like this. I say, look, power is going to get more expensive. You're probably going to save money here. 2 years or today you're saving $37. 3 years from now you might be, because the rates are going to go up, you might be saving $50. 10 years from now you might be saving $10,000. I don't know what it's going to be, just know it's going to be less expensive. So I draw a gimmicky graph and I kind of leave it vague so that they can fill in the blanks themselves.
Awesome. We have a question from our Zoom audience which says, and I'm going to modify it to a degree, how do you prefer to explain, and this is roof warranty on a metal roof, voids a portion of the roof with solar on a 50 to 80 year protection. And a lot of the new home builders and roofing companies will tell the customer, oh, go solar, we're going to void your warranty. So obviously on a metal roof, that's one question, but in general, that's a question. How do you address that question to homeowners? Isn't this going to void my home builder said it would void my warranty?
Honestly, I would literally say it like this. I'd go, yeah, it is. It's going to void it. And you should base your decision off of that. Now,
He sells differently than I do. I use more flowery words.
now, and I let him feel that, because I let him feel that. I'm like, oh, well, thanks, I'm not going solar now. They're not saying that. They're like, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to go solar, and now I'm sorry for scaring the shit out of you, Jake. Like, please bring it back and give it back to me. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's going to void the warranty. You shouldn't do it. But what most homeowners do in this situation is they call their roofing company when we're putting the solar up and saying, hey, could you go make sure that it's waterproof? You know what? I'll even pay your roofer to come out. You can call them and tell them, I'll pay your roofer to come out and make sure the roof is watertight when we're doing this. And so they can keep the same warranty and make sure it's how they want. And if they use material to make it waterproof, I'll cover the cost of it. It's not going to be more than $1,000 or $2,000, right? And so, of course, just knowing that question when I'm in the sale, I'll make sure I incorporate that into the price a little bit.
And then, of course, we, the solar company, we are warranting the roof where the solar is.
Exactly.
We're warranting and would it make sense, by the way, for somebody else to warrant me putting a hole in your roof and then fixing that hole? No, I'm the one putting the hole in your roof.
Yeah.
I'm going to fix the hole, and then I'm going to give you the warranty on that penetration to the roof.
Yeah, and you have to know the different metal roofs. Whoever asked that question, they asked specifically about
Metal roofs are very specific.
There's two. There's corrugated metal and there's standing seam. Standing seam, there are no holes penetrated. It's a clamp that goes on the seam.
So you haven't hurt the roof at all.
Yeah, it just clamps.
And we
on the
use
seam.
usually the roofing systems have their clamps, so we get the roofing clamps from them.
Yeah. So if it's corrugated metal, then maybe, except there's one important fact that you need to know about corrugated metal. That's the metal that looks wavy like this. Those are not ever found on top of houses. Those are found on detached structures, barns, yards.
Yeah.
Sorry, there is one more type of metal. It's called a stone-coated metal. It looks like tiles.
Yeah.
It's stone-coated metal sheets that they stamp and it looks like tiles. Those ones typically are sheets that go on light framed roofs. The framing on the houses is typically not as durable. And so they had wood shake on there, and they cover that with stamped metal. But they typically don't have plywood. If they have plywood, then you're going to do what's an asphalt shingle layover, right? And so it does waterproof it probably more than it was before.
All right. Well, guys, I want to say thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on the solar panel with you.
Thank you.
We came up with this idea of having and bringing this expertise into one room, making it available for the folks here that wanted to share. We're going to continue. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. Then we're going to continue with an MOD training seminar. The folks that are online, you're welcome to stay. It's kind of MOD 101, so you've heard a lot of it, but you're welcome to stay. I'll leave the Zoom up. But this, having you guys come and share, it was a tremendous pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Very, very
It was
much. Great to have you. Thanks
Thank you,
for
Mike.
staying. And so
Awesome.
we're going to take a 10-minute break. You'll be able to say hello to these guys before they take off.
Yeah.
And then in 10 minutes, and if you want a book signed, or if you haven't yet signed in for the seminar, see Diane. And then after the 10 minutes, we're going to get into an MOD Sales Academy clinic, which will take place here. In the
I don't
next 10
mind
minutes.
signing my book if you guys need
Yeah, buy a book and have him sign that book.